Hello fellow developers, welcome back to the TechRakshit. I'm Amit, and in today's video, I shall be talking about a practical roadmap to become web developer in 2024. And at the end of this video, there will be a practical timeline for what time you should spend on which tool. So stay tuned. Alright, so I have come to the screen and I have got this very beautiful AI generated image for web development roadmap. Before going into the details of the roadmap, let's understand web a little bit. The basics. So for web or anything regarding web, we have three major things. One is front end, then second is backend, and the third is data layer. So what is front end? The front end is nothing but the application or the thing that we are facing or the user facing basically. So maybe the browser and then the mobile phones. So all these things are front end because all the designs or something that user or as an user we are accessing. So all the beautiful websites, then these layouts in mobile or maybe in laptop, these are called front end because this is front facing or client facing. So this is called front end. Then from front end, we send the request to access any website, maybe some example.com to the backend. Now then backend says, okay, this request is coming from these front ends, and then it sends the response. The backend is the fundamental thing of web. So backend stores everything, backend handles everything. Backend actually hosts the website for us. Backend, or this backend also called server. So the second name of this thing is server side. So this is front end is also called client side, and backend is also called server side. So server handles everything. Every request we are sending from front end, it handles. Then there comes this data or database. DB is possibly the one of the most important aspects of web because all the data of users or anything. For example, if we talk about Amazon, then users' data like username, their password, then email address or the mobile number, then order and addresses, all these things are stored in database. So when we are trying to access that from front end, we request the backend fetches the data from this database and then responds back to the front end then changes the layout with this beautiful thing and it shows to you. That's how the whole web works. This is a very basic thing. Next up, so in the front end, there are kind of technologies like HTML. This is a markup language, and HTML is basically the structure of any website or web app. You can think of this as the bricks which actually builds the building for you. Then there comes the CSS or cascading style sheet. It actually handles the styles for you. Styles mean what should be the color of the background of your web page, what should be the color of the button background, what should be the color of the text in your website. This actually can be decided or changed from CSS. So CSS is a very important tool for styling, or you can think of this as a style agent. And then probably the most important thing is JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language, and this language is called the language of the web. JavaScript is understood by the browser. So our browser understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So JavaScript handles everything. What happens when you click on a button? What happens when you click on some particular link? It redirects you to that particular link. Everything is handled by JavaScript. And this is one of the most favorite programming languages. It actually changed my career. If you want to know my life, how I got into web development, then check out this I button link. If you can master these three tools, then you can somewhat call yourself a front-end engineer. But days are changing, the time is kind of changed. So for that purpose, there have been frameworks and libraries like React and Angular, Vue.js. I'll talk about that later. After you mastered these things, then there comes the backend. So for backend is a server or another computer which handles your web request and it responds you back with proper item or proper data. So if you want to be a backend developer, then you can use JavaScript and Node.js because this is Node. Using Node.js and JavaScript, also the Express library, you can create backend. If you know Python, and there are frameworks like Django or Flask, so using that also you can create backend or server side applications. Then if you know Java, then you can be a good Spring Boot actually is the framework for Java. Using Spring Boot you can create server, and Go is also very fast reliable language. Using Go also you can create server side applications. So these are kind of stacks for backend. In the timeline section of this video, I'm going to discuss a little bit deeper, like how much time you should spend on all these tools. So hang on for that. Although you do not need to learn all these tools if you know JavaScript, because for the front end you are already learning JavaScript, then my suggestion would be start with Node.js so that you can create small microservice based applications, or maybe even if you have small applications, your user base is not that heavy, you can create Node.js based application server side. Then there comes the database, which is, I told you, the one of the most important part of the web. So there are two types of database actually. One is SQL, or this is called structured query language, and NoSQL, it has no structure. For SQL based database you can use Postgres SQL or MySQL, one of these two, or you can learn any of the SQL based databases. SQL itself is a very vast topic, so if you can take some time to understand the queries of SQL based database, then it's well and good for you. NoSQL databases are also very important because nowadays what happens, the data of the collection of the data is not very structured in many scenarios. For example, let's talk about e-commerce. E-commerce platforms sell different types of products, and each product has different specifications. So you can't structure these product specification in a single structured or SQL based database. So in those scenarios, MongoDB or NoSQL database flourishes. So either of the two, because I'd suggest start with Mongo. This is easier to implement and learn also. And later on, you have to understand SQL because frameworks will go and come, but database and SQL is like there for decades, so you can understand. So next up, this is I'm calling very much essential because eventually you as a web developer won't be working alone. There will be teams, maybe your team lead will be guiding you, there will be teammates, and you have to work in a team. So if you want to work in a team and environment, and then in that scenario you need to understand GitHub or GitLab, anything. Git is the technology which can handle the versioning of your application. So basics of these are very important, like what is commit and how do you push to origin or basically remote. Then how do you pull from remote? These things you gotta understand. Then there are labels, then versioning, Do not be overwhelmed by all these things, but I'm just talking about the tools that are really essential. You have to have a GitHub account, because once you build some project, you want to showcase that project to the interviewer or the recruitment manager. Also, at the end, you want to host something. You have to understand how to host your website or how to host your web app. So for that purpose, you can start with Firebase, which is serverless architecture from GCP, or this is coming from Google, or you can use AWS or GCP directly to host. There are other tools like Hostinger, and you can purchase your own VPS for hosting from there are multiple providers, so you can use that any of the providers. Okay, now the most important part of your web developer journey is building projects. So you can build any projects, but after learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I can tell you, you can create one of your portfolio site where you can talk about what you like, what is your hobby. It is kind of a digital version of your resume, and or think of this as a CV, but this is beautiful. So you can create small HTML based games, because I remember I had started these. So there are small games. Maybe these some games are like this ball is coming here and then reflecting back and then breaking some of these bricks. You can understand, right? These small games you can create. So all the games that we used to play in our childhood, using HTML, you can create these games. So I'm telling you. Clones are also one of my favorite tools. So you can create some of the very popular website clones. So clones like YouTube maybe, or Facebook. Although since we do not have much of the data, or maybe we are not having the authentication and everything, but at least you will have a good practice of how to position the layouts, how to create the UI or the user interface. So you can clone this. So building project is a must. If you have project, so think of this scenario. You are coming to a scratch web developer journey. So you do not have any experience. You are coming straight to the web developer journey. So how a company or a recruiter is judging based on your project, not based on your resume. Because if you are fresher, if you are coming for the very first time, you are not having much of the experiences to impress the recruiter. So projects are must. Then there comes the frameworks or libraries. There are these three libraries or frameworks which are very popular nowadays. React is a library, and Angular and Vue.js, these two are frameworks. I learned React and Vue.js a little bit. So for React, you need some of the JavaScript things. JavaScript knowledge is required, and how you manipulate array, object. These are essential for React, and then CSS is also required. Although there are tools or libraries like Tailwind and Bootstrap where they are utility first libraries, so you just simply put the class name for that particular element and it changes the style. Then there are libraries like CSS in JavaScript. These are also getting very much popular nowadays. Coming to Angular, if you love Angular, then you have to learn one more language, which is TypeScript. TypeScript is called the superset of JavaScript. So JavaScript is inside TypeScript. All the codes written in JavaScript works in TypeScript. So for Angular, TypeScript you gotta know, and the understanding of HTML is very much essential. Also CSS. So HTML, CSS and JavaScript are the fundamentals. Then learning, so that is why I just told that you gotta learn those three things first, and then you can come to any of the frameworks or library. For Vue.js also, JavaScript is essential. JavaScript, and now We can write code in TypeScript also, and these are also pretty easy to learn libraries. Either of these three. If you are going with React, go with this. If you are going with Angular, go with this. And if you want to go with Vue.js, then that is also fine. Coming to the full stack, the trend that is coming in this 2024 is this TNT stack. T stands for tailwind, then N stands for Next.js, it is written already, and T is for TypeScript. Now the things are, Next.js is a framework which is based on React. So all the codes that we write in React, we have to write inside this Next.js application. And this is a full stack application. Full stack. Why full stack? Because in the same code base, you can write the front end or the client side, and then also the APIs or backend endpoints also. So using this, you can create a very good full stack application. Next.js tools are getting extremely popular. So first, if you want to come to Next.js, React is a must. React तो जानना ही जानना है. उसके बाद तुम आ सकते हो. You can come here to learn Next.js. So this is the modern day trend in 2024, I'd say. Cool. So next up. So this is the favorite part of the whole video, which is practical timing. So if you're still there, or if you're directly coming from the timestamps, welcome, and let's start the practical timeline. So as I told you, you have to learn HTML, and HTML is not very difficult, to be very frank. So if you want to learn HTML, it should not take more than 2 weeks. It is enough. Then CSS also tries to spending time around 2 weeks, not more than that. Now coming to JavaScript. See, the thing of JavaScript is, even today also I learned new things on JavaScript. So JavaScript can't be said that, okay, in these many weeks you can learn JavaScript, but at least for a timeline perspective, let's take 4 weeks, 1 month. You have to spend understanding JavaScript properly. So this is around 8 weeks. Then there comes the Git. For Git, you would say 1 week only. 1 week is enough to learn all the Git commands and everything. So Git will take you 1 more week. Then after Git, then let's talk about building projects. So you have to build some projects like portfolio and something like that. So let's take 2 weeks, because these projects won't be very difficult. So you should complete the projects. Yes, don't care about the number. If you can build 1, that is also fine. If you can build 2, that is also fine. If you can build 3, those are also fine. So 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Let's take a buffer, 2 to 3 weeks. After projects, then there comes the framework or the library part. So I will talk about React because I learned that. So React we have to learn. React will take nearly 4 weeks because it has a lot of concepts like hooks and then different libraries, class components. Although class components are not used nowadays, but anyway, just for the sake of learning, we can. I'm taking 4 weeks for this. But before that, there was backend. So let's learn Node.js, because to use React, we needed Node.js. Because just directly creating HTML file, CSS and JavaScript file, we are not going to work with website. Node.js and NPM. NPM is the Node package manager. Although it is not the full brand, but people use that. So this you spend around 2 weeks. Then React 4 weeks. Then there comes all the React libraries. React libraries are the essential part of React because React doesn't come with lot of tools. So you have to learn React libraries. For example, which is coming in my mind, React hook form, then React table, then some library Redux. Redux is the state management library. So you gotta take around 4 more weeks for this part. Then here comes the backend part. You have to understand a little bit of backend also. Okay. So if I talk about backend, then Node we already learned for 2 weeks. Then spend around 1 to 2 weeks for Express. 1 to 2 weeks, not more than that. Express.js is a library which can be used to create server on Node.js. Node.js is nothing but a runtime where you can write or run JS code. So JS engine, you can say JS engine, JavaScript runtime or JavaScript engine actually. Express, you can spend around 1 to 2 weeks for that. Then one round of project you already have built. Then comes the second round of project. And this is the most important part. Very, very important, I would say. You have to build 2 to 3 solid projects, not the fancy application. I told you to build projects for portfolio or clones because of the practice you need and the basic understanding of JavaScript. But this React projects are the most important thing. What you can build, you can create something like Splitwise. You know what is Splitwise? Splitwise is an application where users can go to trip maybe more than 2 to 3 users and they can split their bill, so it maintains all the hisab all the accounts actually. Then second, you can create some proper clones like YouTube clone using the backend also, because now you are kind of full stack developer. Backend भी तो में आ गया तो बना लेना. And the third tool can be, maybe you can use ChatGPT API to build something. So these are 3 project ideas that I can talk about. You can use Google API, Google Maps API maybe, or you may use Google Docs API or Google Sheet API and build some good project. Now you have to remember that website and web apps are not same. I'm talking about mostly web apps. Websites are easier to make because those are just style components. But when you come to web application, there the actual taste happens for web developers. Web developers are not only creating websites, web apps, even Photoshop came online. Photoshop has been launched online. So there is this cloud version. You do not need to install that in your computer. You can directly work in the cloud. Alright, I think this is a practical roadmap, but okay. The last thing, for this project, take 2 months, 8 weeks for projects. Because this time is required for these solid projects. If you are building only one project also, that is also fine, but please build it. So now let's count the total time it may take. 2 to 4 plus 4, 8 and then 9. I'm taking 3, 9, 3, 12, 12 and then Node.js 2 weeks, 14 plus 14, 18 plus 4, 22, and then 2 weeks for Express, 22, 24, and this Backend. So around 8 months you would require. So 24 weeks plus 8 weeks. 24 weeks you can think around 6 months, and 8 weeks is around 2 more months. So altogether you do not need more than 8 months to at least be prepared for the fresher job of web development. And once you complete these 24 weeks, then I would suggest look for job. Because a recruiter will reach out to you, and you also want to reach out to the recruiter, then it will take around 2 months. So alright, so around 8 months is the final timeline that you may require. But no, don't you worry on that part, because 8 months, I can understand that 8 months is not very strict. You can take plus 1 or 2 months more maybe. So 8 to 10 months you have to spend solid time so that you can at least land a web development job or software engineering job. Cool. I think cool. So that is it for this video, and please let me know how do you like it. If you like it, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for further new videos like this. And thank you very much for staying there. Love you.